Someone writes in, I find myself struggling with many addictions, social media, my iPhone, eating, nail biting, etc. I now realize they're all connected to the fear of just being in the present moment. What's your suggestion to deal with this constant resistance to being in the present moment?
Well, in a way, the questioner has already supplied an answer, which is the answer that was part of the question is, well, it's connected with the fear of being in the present moment. But the question is that the correct answer? So let's see. Many addictions arise. You mentioned the cell phone and whatever, nail biting, internet addiction, whatever it may be. Let's see what that means. I often say that the greatest addiction is the addiction to thinking. And all those things, or many of those things mentioned by the questioner, are actually extensions of thought processes which our technologically advanced society has created. So when you are addicted to your cell phone, you're addicted to surfing online, you're addicted to Facebook and text messages, and you constantly, I have my phone here it is, so you go every minute a message comes in. This is an extension of your mind. So ultimately the addiction to internet, surfing and cell phones, etc., is just an extension, an externalization of the addiction to thinking, a lot of which is quite useless, superfluous, and not only that, a lot of it is also destructive. So ultimately it comes down to an addiction to thought. Now, the questioner has suggested as an answer that the addiction is there because of fear of being in the present moment. That's probably not quite correct. I would suggest that it is to do with the inability to be in the present moment. The not even knowing what it means to be in the present moment, not being able to penetrate beyond the surface dimension of the present moment. The surface dimension of the present moment is whatever surrounds you here, wherever you are. You're in a room or outside or wherever you may be, and whatever goes on here, the surface dimension, this is what is, but it's not interesting enough, of course, it never is. So you go to something else, or you go into your own mind. You can see many people, they are not really present where they are absent in their minds. Their attention is absorbed by thinking, so they're not really here, they're not really perceiving their surroundings. Even in conversations between two human beings, many humans are not capable of really listening to the other, because to really listen to the other implies that for that moment there's a space in which you're not thinking. You're just giving complete attention to the other person. But if you're completely identified with thinking and addicted to thinking, even while the other person is talking, you're already thinking about what you're going to say next, or your objection, or thinking of being something completely different, but you're thinking, you're not really listening. So you need to learn what it means to go more deeply into the present moment, which is a highly satisfying thing to do. So if you remain on the surface of the present moment, then there's nothing much going on here. Let's say here, I'm sitting here. This is a room. Let's say I'm sitting here waiting for somebody to arrive. This room is not particularly interesting. It's just it's a kind of studio room. So I'm sitting here waiting for somebody to arrive. Now, in the past, a person sitting in an empty room waiting for somebody to arrive would be sitting there, and if there's no newspapers or magazines around, this person would just be completely absorbed in their mind. They would be thinking of this and that, be sitting. They might have thoughts about angry thoughts, why isn't this person arriving, or thoughts about something totally different, daydreaming, apprehensive thoughts about, anxious thought about what's going to happen when this person comes, what are we going to talk about, what's he going to say, whatever. You'll be sitting there absorbed in your mind. Nowadays, you might have noticed that when you go to a public place, very few people just sit there with doing nothing. Almost impossible to see anybody who just sits there. Either they're talking to somebody, or most likely they are engaged with their phones. Nobody just sits and waits anymore. Nobody just sits and contemplates the world. No, the moment you sit and there's nothing else happening, you have to go to this. And you have to interact with that. There's never a moment of spacious presence, because you already have this that gives into countless infinite stimulus to your thoughts, your mind. A lot of it, 99% is probably pointless, but continuous stimulus, food for thought, continuously feeding this incessant stream of thinking, and so you can be engaged with that. Okay. Now, there is another possibility. You can be sitting in this room that's not a particularly interesting room. For some reason, you're in this room alone, and instead of engaging with your cell phone, or instead of engaging with your mind, you sit there and begin to look around. Just become attentive to your surroundings. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's particularly interesting, but yet you take your attention into the present moment and you look around. And then you go to the next level. You become aware of yourself. First you become aware of your surroundings. Then you become aware of yourself. What does that mean? Well, you become aware that you're breathing. And so you sit there consciously just breathing, knowing that you're breathing, and you're still contemplating the world around you. This is the beginning, just the beginning of going more deeply into the present moment, just the beginning. And then perhaps you become aware not only of your surroundings and your breathing, but also your inner body, the aliveness in your body. You feel your body is alive. It's a very subtle thing at first. So you sit there, still being aware of your surroundings, but also aware that you're breathing, and also aware that your entire body is a field of aliveness, that the cells in your body are alive, in your hands, your feet. You feel the totality of the inner body. And then that means one could almost say every cell is becoming conscious, becoming present. It's a very, very pleasant, a deepening aliveness pervading your entire body. And that aliveness is presence. So you can sense the presence with your whole body. And that presence is consciousness. And suddenly you realize that you are a field of consciousness. Your entire body is just the external expression of something deeper that you cannot see, that is invisible. You are almost entirely invisible. Every human being is almost entirely invisible, because what makes you into a human being is consciousness, and consciousness is invisible. So without consciousness, you are nothing. Without consciousness, you are just, there's the bones and tissues and water in your body. What is 60% water? Well, you are, who you are is, you are invisible. Even your thoughts are invisible. A surgeon could cut open your brain. He would never find a thought. We don't even know yet what a thought is, but we know it's invisible. So you become aware of that invisible you as consciousness. That is going deeply into the present moment. And then you don't need to think. You don't need to be engaged in daydreaming and thinking, because it is so satisfying to be deeply rooted in the present moment. So just learn to go more deeply into the present moment, then all these addictions will not have power over you anymore. They will gradually fall away, because you realize that being deeply rooted in the now is much more satisfying than going into a phone and texting, "What's up? What are you doing?" Completely pointless. Thank you.